I'm Miloš Lewiński and you're watching TVP World Talks, where every word matters. Poland is taking over the presidency of the Council of the European Union, picking up where Hungary has left off. This in itself is a challenge, given how Viktor Orbán has been trying to veer off away from the EU mainstream with some questionable foreign policy initiatives. But Poland's leadership also comes at a critical moment for the bloc in general. With security at the top of the agenda, can Warsaw bring about a great awakening of a continent that, in terms of defense and resilience, seems to have descended into deep slumber over the last few decades? Joining us now is Magdalena Marta Baran, editor-in-chief at Liberty. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, good morning.
So what are the prospects of Poland turning things around when it comes to security? Even the slogan is Security Europe. By the way, do you think it might have been inspired by the unofficial campaign slogan of Bill Clinton from back in the 90s?
Yeah, exactly. You know, just 2 weeks ago in the press corner, I was talking that exactly the bell rings here that it's like economy is stupid. But yeah, we know that those days US was in a deep crisis and it was in an economical crisis. The slogan is very appropriate, I would say.
Slightly more polite, not calling anyone stupid. But do you think, despite the politeness of the slogan, the actions will be forceful enough?
I believe so, and after the reports we had last year, it should be. Of course, we must know what is the real meaning of presidency. Presidency is not, it doesn't mean that Poland will govern, will rule in the European Union or in the Council or so on, but it will have an impact and it would put things, topics, new topics also on the European agenda on one hand. On the other hand, it should be a kind of a mediator between interest of different states and the interest of the EU as such. And of course, I think that in a minute we'll talk about the slogan and implementation of what Security Europe really means. But I believe it is exactly what we need today, because our crisis of on different fields of security is really, really deep.
And it's also a leadership challenge. I mean, at this stage, Germany is awaiting elections. France is also in a bit of a crisis. Do you think that this could actually be something where Poland could use its position within the EU and its importance for the security of the eastern flank to its advantage?
Just this morning, I was listening to an interview with one of the Polish politologist, saying that the leadership and the abilities that Donald Tusk really has might be a chance for Poland, especially since you mentioned the crisis the crisis in Germany, crisis in France, but also upcoming elections in Europe. So it will be Norway, Czech Republic, Moldova, plus Germany, of course. And what happened in the relations within the V4 countries, or Visegrad countries, especially since we have problems with Hungary, let's call it problems with Hungary since years. But right now
as well.
we expected new problems, and even opening, how Zelensky said, the opening of the second front in energetic war in Slovakia. So the mediation is really necessary here.
So do you think that most of Europe will be able to get behind what we propose as the agenda? Because this is really Poland's national interest and also Europe's overall interest. It's not ideological, it is a matter of security. Some people would even say survival.
Yeah, just take a look at the 3 reports published last year. The first was a Letta report on a single market. The second are probably the most the best known was the Draghi report on the abilities or competitiveness of the European Union and how to make Europe or secure Europe on the position of the leader, global leader in technologies, and how to build an economical resilience. But there is still the third report, the less known. It's a report written by a former Prime Minister of Finland, so Niinisto. And the Niinisto report is a report entitled Safer Together. And it is exactly the report that, from my point of view, underline the most important issues we deal with right now. There are 80 suggestions what to do to increase the cooperation between military civilians, to how to build social resilience, how to of our societies, how to increase the awareness of the threats that include cyber threat, information, resilience to disinformation, but also awareness of sabotage and hybrid warfare as such.
Which is already ongoing. Some people say, we're in the middle of a hybrid war. Does this report suggest how to reinvigorate the defense industry in Europe? Because some say Europe is really punching below its weight when it comes to its economic prowess, but the weapons manufacture is not really at the same level as it was during the Cold War, even though the challenges seems are similar.
We already know we need to work on it, and it is a part of 7 pillars presented by Polish presidency. 7 pillars: so security, internal security, external security, economical security, security of information, of food, and of our health issues, and energetic security, of course. And I found most of them inspired by the report, of course, developed and applicate to the current situation we have in Europe. And of course, those are also the guidelines for the European Commission, because we must have in mind that Polish presidency is the first presidency in the new institutional cycle of the EU, because the new Commission just started to work, and from what I remember, there are still about 30 days for commissioners to present the strategies that Ursula von der Leyen wanted them to design in the first 100 days of the cabinet. So I'm really waiting for what we'll hear from Andris Kubilius, from the Commissioner for Defense, but also from Henna Virkkunen, who is responsible for security, democracy and sovereignty, but mainly security, because those two must cooperate on those fields. And of course, they must cooperate also with Kaja Kallas and her as a person responsible for our external relations, international relations. And here comes also the first priority of Polish presidency, so external international security, our relation with the with NATO, with the US and the other allies.
So, speaking of the US, I mean, you also have Donald Trump demanding that European countries become more involved in their own security. Do you believe that this paradoxically might be the perfect situation whereby you have the presidency of a country from the eastern flank, which is aware of the threats, which spends more than 4% of its GDP on defense, and also you have the US administration that, controversial as it is, has similar priorities?
The priorities are indeed similar, but first we need to think about possible effectiveness, and we need to to find a right spot between being catastrophic about possible decisions of Donald Trump and being really optimistic about it. So I really believe we must find a realistic point of view and realistic possibilities of cooperation. The European countries, I can remember it was just after Donald Trump announced that, we must push Europe to do things. And then I heard Donald Tusk saying it's the high time for Europe to stand on its own foot. And this is crucial, I believe. Europe must find a power inside, strength inside, increase some abilities, including the military industry and the military abilities in general, to be able to respond for threats, but also for I'm looking for a good word, maybe for some aspects of Trump's policy, including what we heard, a part of the plan for the Ukraine, to put some European troops to the Ukraine to guard the peace. And of course, this peace will be a challenge. The end of a war is a challenge if we are going to have what we call the just peace, or what I called only peace, only possible peace.
So very quickly, Ukraine also said that Poland, a friendly nation, is taking over the presidency. Do you think that we'll be able to carry on this advocacy on the part of Ukraine within the EU so that a just peace is achieved?
Well, I would be really happy to look for solutions that could bring us a just peace, but well, again, it's a kind of it's a case of mediation and negotiations. Here, the really important part will be one of the priorities. Also underlined the development of the EU and even the start of a first round of negotiation to close. Maybe not to. I'm not so optimistic about closing the first cluster of the negotiations with Ukraine's membership, but at least to start it. And this is one of the Polish priorities of the Polish presidency.
Do you think there is a risk that some countries are going to say, no, we're not going to spend more than 2%. We're not going to send any troops to the DMZ? What happens then?
Okay, sending troops is a different topic, I would say.
Potential, we still don't know the details.
Spending more than 2% of the GDP, since they all agree to do so, and I'm really willing to believe that the awareness of the threat is really high right now, and spending 2% of the GDP is a realistic scenario.
We're still way high on the eastern flank. This is why we perceive it as more acute. Magdalena, Marta, Baran was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight.
Thank you.
And I'm Jonasz Lewicki. You're watching TVP World. Please do stay with us for more latest news and updates.